Welcome back, everyone. Staring from the Staring Gaming here. Today we're on the Throne of Thunder. This was a raid accessible through Miss Pandaria once the Mugu homeland and basically the Throne of Thunder patch came through. This is actually a separate island from Pandaria and it's accessible by a portal near the Shadowpan's main base in Talong Steps. It would be the Shadowpan garrison. There would be a portal nearby for Alliance and Horde to get to this island. Now we're going to run this on Heroic, I believe. Yep, it only has up to a normal Heroic 25 player mode. So we're going to get right into it, and we'll... Now you see, the first room you just take a side of the stairs and just run up.
I require a target!
Now you also want to watch out in the tall grass here, because periodically there could be snakes hiding in these grasses. They'll just pop right out and get you. Usually in groups of 2 to 4, so you got to be careful. Sorry about that. That's a buddy of mine. We had something planned later. Now to open the door, you just got to take out the Stormcaller here.
I do not have a target.
Now the Stormcaller's out of the way.
I am out of range.
You're actually already at the first boss, General the Breaker. And as you can see, he launches stone right at you.
King, give me power. Come, I'll show you.
I believe you actually met this guy before if you played Classic. When you did ZG, or Zogrub, I believe he was one of the NPCs there you could do business with. Outside there to hand in such trinkets and stuff. Now you fight him here and he's now General the Breaker. Now this is for tanks to be careful of. He'll throw a current target into one of these statues up here as a Mogu. Crashing the ground, inflicting nature damage to anyone who's nearby you and stunning them. Now, water will start flowing out of the statue and forming a pool in the ground. Now, the conductive water here, they empower players with fluidity, but you also become susceptible to nature damage. Now, the buff is you get 40 increased healing and increased damage. However, you take 100% increased nature damage. Basically, any of his his nature abilities will travel through the water and damage anyone in them. As for that, Static Burst, he performs a quick strike inflicting nature damage to all players, and after 3 seconds applies 10 static wounds onto the current target. Now the static wound on the tank will inflict nature damage per stack when taking melee. So, additionally, a third of that damage goes to other players. But it does decrease in potency over time, which means the stacks will slowly go down. Now, Focus Lightning, he'll create an orb of lightning that will follow a player, and when it reaches them, it detonates for nature damage at a certain distance to other players within. Also, it can pulse and do nature damage every half second, so you want to avoid it as much as possible. Now, if it travels through the conductive water, it inflicts relatively decent nature damage to all players who are currently standing in the water. Now, a lightning fissure will detonate outside conducting water. When this forms, a field of unstable energy will inflict damage to a player within distance of 5 yards. As this, if it comes in contact with water, it inflicts a decent amount of damage to people standing in the water. Now, Implosion is a deadly ability here. Now, if it comes in contact with another Focus Lightning, it inflicts massive damage and leaving them vulnerable, and they'll take additional damage from the next implosion. Now, violent detonation is even more deadly. When the lightning focuses within the side electrified water, it does massive damage to everyone. Now, he can summon a lightning storm that inflicts damage to all players every second for 15, and it can electrify the water. And when this happens, it removes the buff of fluidity you can get from it, and inflicting damage every second to whoever enters water, which basically means get out of the water. Lightning Strike can strike multiple locations during Lightning Storm. It does massive nature damage, and if it diffuses, it inflicts nature damage to all players. Now, Ionization, he'll ionize enemy players, attracting storm energies towards them for 24 seconds, inflicting massive damage. And within a turning distance, when dispelled. And this is only on Heroic. So we're going to get into it and take him out.
I must break you. Ow, you bit me.
Now, the next part here is basically you're going to be fighting against the windstorm. It's going to keep trying to push you to the side and back. But you also want to avoid standing within this area here, because if you do, you will get launched. And as you can see, there are the pythons that hide in the grass. And I was wrong that they can spawn 2 to 4. Apparently it's 2 to 5 they can be spawned. And we're going to make our way here, and you got to fight against this. You can't stand it alone, because unless you have a movement speed increase, in fact, just trying to run through it, you can't right up against it unless you can increase your speed. So you got to take little spots like this to get back into a situation where you can move. But you got to also avoid them, because you will get launched off this if you are not so careful. But while we're here, we're going to talk about Horadon. Also, he's a mount. He also drops a mount and a pet, this guy. Now, you'll be fighting this boss along with some other ads. But for him, triple puncture, he basically strikes with all 3 of his horns, inflicting physical damage, increasing the damage they take by 10 from this move for a minute and a half. And they can stack. Now, double sweat can be deadly. He'll swing his head and tail to and fro, which basically inflicts damage to people in front and behind him, and it happens twice. Charge, he'll basically charge a random player, performing double sweat when he reaches there. Now, this ability is going to become useful in the fight. Now, Dire Call, he'll emit a powerful roar, inflicting physical damage, decreasing melee attack speed of all allies. And also, it can summon forth a Dire Horn Spirit. It will fixate on a random player, and only the fixated player can interact or see this spirit. Now, the weak link is its link, and any attack basically if the person who is fixated just attack it, and it will be knocked back. Now, during this fight, different tribes of trolls will be spawning in, as you can see. Now, you want to burn these guys down, but the ones you primarily need to focus for are the Zanulari. Now, when the Dinomancers spawn, they need to be your priority, because they can heal Horadon, and you don't want that, because he'll get back 1% of his HP every second during this heal. You interrupt this guy as fast as possible. At 50% health, they can turn into a Devilsaur. Their physical damage is increased, but they can no longer cast their heal. So, the Orb of Control is when the Zanulari Darmanitor transforms and drops this. You can interact with this to take control of the boss's mind, and then use him to charge into one of the open doors and destroy it. And once you do that, they no longer will be spawning in. And once he does that, he'll be stunned for 10 seconds and have cracked shell, which makes him take increased damage by 50%, and it can stack up to 4, which means if you take out all the doors, it does increase 200 damage to him. Now, during the fight, either when all 4 tribes have been called or when Horadon's below 30% health, War God Jaklik will show up and enter the fight himself. During the fight, he has these abilities known as Bestial Cry, which inflicts physical damage to all players, increasing his damage done by 50%, and it will stack. And if he dies before Horadon, Horadon will go on a rampage, inflicting 100% increased damage, and his attack speed by 50% will go. Now, for these, you just gotta destroy the doors with Horadon, so always make sure you're watching out for those Dinomancers in order to get the orbs to destroy the doors to stop them from spawning. And as you saw, the ad I killed here, by killing him, you no longer have to worry about the wind blowing you anywhere, because it will be gone. So let's get right into this one. It's going to be a bit of a speech here.
Welcome, weaklings, to the rebirth of the Zondalari Empire. The tribes have assembled. Ye face not one force, but the combined might of all the Troll Empire. The hand of Zul will span all the continents of Azeroth once again. And ye lesser races will know pain! Now witness the true might of the Beast Ward! The Kaladechuka Horadon! Kalamaste!
Now you see all the doors with the masks on them? Those are the doors you charge with Horadon to destroy to stop them from spawning a certain tribe of troll. Now I'm probably going to just take out Horadon in a few shots. But you see currently now the Onslaught buff reduces his damage and health by 20.
Pirate tribe! Flay their flesh with the fury of the... Now it be might. You gonna see
Now let's see what this looks like. The Maelstrom stack. Meh. Also, he's skinnable. Now you see the achievement here is, I'm not even going to be able to pronounce it, the Collector, is you take him out without killing any of the Dinomancers, which basically means you won't be able to get him that damage buff, because in order to do that you actually have to kill Dinomancers to get an orb to drop. So you would have to keep that specific ad up while dealing with an onslaught of ads along with Horda. It's a grueling achievement to get, and I have it from back then on my main, so trust me, back then it was nasty. We're on our way to the Council of Elders, which... Oh, and there's a chance if you kill some of these sand conjurers, you actually get a little sand elemental pet.
cannot be stopped.
And as you can see, you killed them. And now their spirits have been raised. There's also an achievement for collecting certain books that drop out of here too. But as for the Council of Elders, remember the guy back in Mukashan Palace, he's in this fight. He'll basically possess each of these bosses, giving them boosted abilities. Now, what he does is Lingering Represses, increases all damage done by 15, and generate a dark energy. Dark Power, if he reaches 100%, they start casting this, and it deals damage until you can knock the spirit out. On Heroic, Soul Fragment, when you force him out of the counselor, they leave behind a fragment. It possesses a random player, inflicting shadow damage every 5, until it's passed to another player. But in addition, every time it deals damage, it applies Shadowed Soul. Basically, you take increased damage for the remainder of fighting. It can stack, so it's a game of hot potato when it comes to this. Now you got the Frost King here, which is basically melee. First at Assault, if you get to 15 stacks, you get stunned by this for 15 seconds. Biting Cold, he shrouds a random player in ice, inflicting frost damage and giving them Biting Cold. This causes player to inflict frost damage to all nearby allies every 2 for 30 seconds. Now, Frostbite. Frostbite is an ability if he is currently possessed. It inflicts frost damage and gives them 5 stacks of Frostbite. It causes player to inflict 7 damage per second frostbite to all allies within certain distance every second for 30. They are reduced by 2 for each player that stays within the yards of the player afflicted. So basically, you need to stick within distance of whoever has it to help get rid of the stacks. But in 25-player modes, only 1 stack of frostbite is removed this way. Now, Heroic, he has body heat ability, which when you're hit by an ally's frostbite, they lose body heat over 8 seconds. Once body heat expires, you're chilled to the bone and no longer are able to contribute to removing the number of stacks on frostbite for 8 seconds. So, no. Kara's and Jin, it's just guy's going to be running all around, launching himself during the fight. Reckless Charge, he'll rush towards a random player, inflicting nature damage to anyone who's in his line, and knocking them wherever he lands. This charge is on Heroic. After he possesses Reckless Charge when he's possessed, he becomes electrified and stunning himself, inflicting 5% all damage you do to him while that's happening. But this is the best time when you need to hit him. Now, Sue the Sandcrawler. This ability, known as Sandball, can be interrupted. It's just nature damage to all players within a certain distance of the target's location. Quicksand is something you must watch out for. He'll summon a pool of quicksand. If you stand in it for too long, you will be ensnared and you will not get out. Because if it hits 5 stacks, you're messed. Because it reduces your move speed pretty fast. You'll be rooted and you'll be stuck in place for 30 seconds while taking damage. So more or less, unless someone gets you out of there, you're just going to get killed instantaneously, more or less. Now, when he's possessed, he uses the ability known as Sandstorm. He'll summon up a sandstorm that does damage to all players for 8 seconds every second, and then he animates all existing pools of quicksand, turning them into sand elementals, as you see here. When you kill it, it creates a new quicksand pool. So you gotta be careful when you kill them not to stand in the same place. Now, Fortified is when they come active, is when a sandstorm occurs to become fortified. This heals them to full and it increases all their damage by 100. And this effect will stack until they're killed. Now, Treacherous Ground is on Heroic here. They can overlap with one another to combine into a single pool much larger. Well, when living sand that comes out of one that's been combined, has their health and damage increased for each pool that it's combined with. So basically on Heroic, when you kill them, do not kill them together. Kill them apart from one another. Or you're going to end up having one that pops right out. That is going to destroy your group. Now the High Priestess here, Marley, the Raffalo is just a holy damage that she strikes a random player with. You can interrupt. Blessed Lower Spirit, she summons one at her location. It'll move towards one of her allies, healing it for 10% of their maximum health. If you do not kill in a time. If it's still alive after 20 seconds, it just jumps right to them, gives them the heal instantaneously. Now, Raffaloa, you want to make sure you're interrupting this when you get a chance. This is when she's possessed. It'll strike and inflict shadow damage. Now, while she's also possessed, she can rip your spirit or soul from 2 random players and link them together. Each soul pursues the soul that it's linked to and inflicts shadow damage to all players in 2 seconds. The damage of Twisted Fate is reduced the further each soul is from the other. When the soul dies severing the link, the remaining soul begins to inflict a certain amount of damage every 3 seconds. We're going to get into it and get these out of the way.
With the Thunder King's power, the Zandalari will be reborn.
As you see, a living sandline is what just dropped here. That's the pet that you can get off these guys. We're just gonna leave that there. You really can't sell those guys too well lately. I believe you just gotta kill this group or just them to get through the next door. Let's see.
I must get closer.
Yep, you gotta kill this group in order to open the door.
I need to target something first. I require a target. I need to target something first.
And while we're here,
I have many lucky doos you like.
let's just clear out some bag space here and make it
May
better
your
for
feet
us.
find good trails.
Lei Shen, let us prove to you the might of the Zandalari. We will crush these intruders where they stand. We will never fail you.
Guess I couldn't avoid these guys. Now back then, we always focused on killing Sul the Sandcrawler because of his whirlpools. Because of his quicksand,
Witness the power.
we always
of
chose
this
to kill him.
Terrainer.
I require a target.
Getting cold.
The Spirit Finder reveals your soul to Chandra. Save
I believe when you do that, you actually destroy that troll's soul as well. But next is coming up a little cutscene, and we still got a bunch of bosses to get through, so... Now, Tortoros is going to be our next boss. Honestly, for this run, I'm going to just open up these slowly instead of explaining them. Because I am unfortunately on a time today. So you can pause through the fight, read these abilities, and see what you got to watch out for. So I do apologize for the kind of cop out here just a little bit, but as you can see, you can just read those by pausing and you'll see.
Too far away.
But here's the cutscene coming up.
You have swept the filth from my doorstep. Perhaps you are worthy of my attention. But your trespass ends here. None may enter my forbidden stronghold. I shall rebuild this bridge with your bones for bricks.
And as you see, he basically blocks your exit from here. Now you get to be a bit like Mario and kick turtle shells while you're in this area. I see he just cracks because he's like a giant stone, more or less. Became like a giant crystal turtle, more or less here. Now, to actually summon up the next boss, you have to destroy 3 bells that are always going to be in the same location when you come down here. So you just got to kill the spirit protecting them to break them. Now you see these ads here. If you run through the mushrooms, you risk a chance of summoning more ads because of that. So I would advise avoiding running through the mushrooms if you can. That way you don't summon more stalkers or any burrowing worms. Now, we just accidentally ran past the first bell, but destroying the... You gotta take out each Eternal Guardian out these bells in order to summon up the next boss. As you see, it releases the seal on that.
I am out of range.
See, it causes that to happen. And we got 2. The next one is straight across this way. Man, that sounded like the thunderstorms around my house. This is number 2.
I must get closer.
Now, one more to go. And now the next boss will be summoned. The next one is you just go around this path and it'll be right there ahead of you. And then you can just jump down here to get to the boss. The boss will spawn right here. While we're doing this, Mega Era, or however you want to pronounce it. It's a Hydra, which if you know Hydras, they have many heads. Now the Concealing Fog, as you can see, we're gonna just kind of show you this stuff here, because I unfortunately did not input for time. You got the Flaming Head. The Frozen Head next. And the Venomous Head. Now, specific on Heroic, there will be a fourth type of head known as the Arcane Head, which this one, as you can see, can summon and add. This is a bit of a long fight because, as you can see, every time you take out a head, this ability, Rampage, will click in for 20 seconds. And basically, you have to sit 20 seconds surviving this before you can kill another head. And unfortunately, you can only kill one at a time. And on Heroic, I believe you have to kill 7 heads to win this fight. I think on normal it's even 3 or 4. Luckily for me, I can kill some of these and hit kill by using quotation marks at them in advance. I just gotta sit through the 20 seconds. Yeah, I believe this is 7 kills. 7 kill 7 heads, and this one's over then. It was a bit boring to have to sit through this, but I do apologize. But this is one of the bosses that kind of made you have to. And as you can see, each time you kill one of the heads, when that head spawns again, they get this buff for 20% damage by all. So that means even the ones that are in the back there during Rampage or now that are just launching, their damage is also increased. Now, Cinders can be a pretty nasty ability, but it also melts icy ground and removes pool cinders, so each ability has their own purpose, more or less. you go. One of the most longest fights in this raid. Now the next boss is going to bit mechanics on it, but this boss also has a chance to drop a pet and a battle pet. I mean a battle pet and a mount. As you can see, this is the mount. And this is the battle pet. But let's go over the abilities. Now, heroic, you get Nest Guardians. Now for the boss's abilities. Now for this room, as you see there's spider web right there. If you step on that, you end up having this guy come down to attack you. These will just shoot range attacks at you, so just burn them down fast. If you touch any of these bone piles that are glowing, you'll summon up a maggot. Now the ones you have to be truly careful of are the snails. You need to basically stay at certain distance away from them, which you can see there's a big melee range here. And they will fixate on a player. Now, do not let them get near anyone. If anyone goes near them, they get knocked to the ground and will be killed instantaneously by the snail. That's why they have such a big hitbox. So you don't let that happen. There are, I believe, 4 of them. One there, one here at the stairs. And I believe these guys have a very, very uber low chance of dropping a toy or a pet, maybe. I don't remember which one it was. But it's a very, almost non-existent drop from my experience. Now, as you see, there's this fog here. You want to stay out of that because it gives you the choking gas debuff, which will take damage every second or have reduced attack and casting speed. Now, I was wrong. There's actually 5 of these guys here. And as you can see, because I attacked them near the little carcass there, these guys spawn. Now, the snails also leave behind a slime trail you don't want to stand in, obviously, as well. Now we're here at the next boss. Just jumped right to the next boss here and just take her out. Now as we're making our next way, Dormammu the Forgotten is our next boss. And all you gotta do is grab this feather there, and you can fly over to the next area, which is right here. Let's bring down his abilities. This one you need to be careful because it's an insta-kill. Now, while Vice is here, I'm specifically heroic. Quick thing is, you don't want to stand near their landing zone when you pull them, or you will be launched.
I am out of range.
Now, this is a heroic skill he has. And this is basically his enrage, which kills everyone within 10 minutes if he's not defeated. Or if you fail to do the light spectrum event. Now, once we pull this one here, which I'll show you what happens if you stand close, or I just become immune to it, but he'll spawn from up there.
The power of the void. I welcome the void's embrace.
Now this basically, next room, you're going to be fighting just to push through. Just basically you got to keep fighting and pushing, because they'll just keep slowly spawning. Now, Primordius will be the next boss here, and we'll go over his abilities, as you can see here.
I do not have a target.
is his heroic ability. Now to pull this boss, you gotta see where he's hiding currently. Like here's where he is. Before you pull him, he'll kind of dig into these and pop up at random spots.
Your flesh, yes, so breath it. Give it to us.
Now I can't defeat him fast because he's got this reduction by 75% damage. I would have to mutate myself to do a full 100% damage hit on him.
I require a target!
Your turn at that. Again to the cold darkness.
Now, as you can see, I actually unlocked an achievement. Stop following. Genetically unmodified organism. Basically, you defeat this guy without letting him get any player getting a harmful mutation. Now, sometimes you get something like this, a hidden quest, where you get some spoils. Now, you should be, as you see right there. Normally, it's just two big Mogu standing there when you open the door that come charge through. Because this quest here is active this week, it's actually going to be a rare sitting through the door, which gives you a quest, the kill.
Stop them! The animus must not be disturbed!
And you get the spoils of the Thunder King, which more or less is just gold in a bag. Which, let's see if we find it. As you can see, it's a piece of gear, green gear, and some gold.
The power, it cannot be wielded this way. You temp forces, you have doomed yourselves. It is unleashed.
Now this boss fight actually doesn't start until you destroy this anima orb. And you basically destroy it by clicking on it, so don't click on it until everyone's ready. Now we'll go over its abilities here, as you can see. Now this is on heroic difficulty ability. This is the ability you gotta be careful of here if it gets full anima. Now this boss fight, I think on normal, you have to kill the golems. But I think here on heroic, you just straight up fight the dark anima right off the bat. And it gains the anima, every time you destroy a minion, it gains their anima. Yep, it gets the anima they drop when you kill him. Here he's going to full power. Now, we've got 4 bosses left to go. And to be honest, that last boss is only accessible here on heroic. Now we're just gonna go through these here. Let you see them. this is the exit gate you take here. And once you get through here, you can remount again, repair, sell, and such. And also, more or less, you hit a checkpoint. So if you wipe and get knocked out, you just come right back through and you'll be here. Now, hopefully I can burn him down fast enough so he doesn't get onto another mountain.
Stare into the face of true power. More training.
Now, can't touch this is an achievement here you can get too. Basically survive the fight without getting hit by any of these abilities. So at max level, just burst out on when he gets off this mountain, you get this achievement pretty fast. Now you can kill these guys here, and you'll just free up the celestial spirits. Now we're coming up to the twin consorts, so let's put their abilities here. Now this is on heroic. During this fight, you can go and get these powers, but you have to... It's basically a game of connect the dots, and it sucks. The fight starts fighting Lulin.
More kindling for the flame.
I need to
Come
target
in,
something
let us
first.
burn them to ash. I can see the light.
Now you see the achievement from dusk till dawn. You gotta defeat Lulin before Soon falls below 30% health. Then take out Soon. Now, get to the on heroic, the next to last boss. You have to run through this chamber, but be careful, because these will shoot out electrical bolts. And this little safe point. This is a safe point back then where we would go and wait for this to dissipate. You could run through them if you had the ability to negate this. You could use it. But you have to be careful because of the two ads standing up here, because you could easily pull them.
You have earned my ire. I will make an example of you, such that all who look upon my might will tremble and submit.
Also, this is a faction dungeon too, which is known as the Shadowpan Assault. You get pretty much rep for every boss you kill. But where we head down there to face Lei Shin, he has multiple stages. So let's get through the book here, and you'll see. During this phase, he'll just stay in the middle and you can't attack him. And also, make sure he doesn't blow you off the platform when he's doing his charge phase. You get to him, use the placement pad, and fortunately, I don't believe you can just down him if you speed DPS him. He's going to go through his phases, no matter what. But we can try. Let's see what happens.
I am Lei Shin.
I do not have a target.
Yep.
Me in my own sanctum. Witness your folly.
Yeah, you gotta be careful because he'll start trying to push you off. Like for me, I'm on a shaman who has movement abilities that speed up, including Knife Phase, so I can use Soul Shape to blink. Now this, if you're doing this solo and heroic, DPS these things down because they'll just keep coming and coming and coming. And you don't want to overload. You end up crashing because of all the ad spawns. So if you have an AoE ability, like the shaman I have does, like Earthquake, use it. That way you can keep the ads from spawning on you.
I do not have a
fast
target.
enough.
Nothing! I wield the power of the heavens!
You see his Helm of Command's going to try to push you off. You got to keep moving towards him without getting knocked because it goes, kind of speeds up. That's the kick. Let me try to get another Earthquake up, take care of all the ads. I don't want to crash because of it.
I require a target. I need to target something first. I do not have a target.
Now it seems like they cut down the supercharge time to maybe 20 seconds.
I am the Thunder King!
Now that you defeat him on heroic, it unlocks a hidden area that's only accessible if you do heroic mode. Now let's watch. Should be a cutscene. Now, if you recognize, this is the Primordius boss room. Now to get back, all you have to do is click on the placement pad and it will teleport you right to that room. Now, I believe, because back then, Blizzard didn't want anyone knowing about his abilities, this is what it is. You had to learn this fight. And I believe back then, no one was allowed to post videos or anything about this guy other than his name. Like, if you back then, if you posted anything about this boss other than what his name was, there was a chance you got hit with Blizzard copywriting or doing worse to you. They did not want anyone to know what this boss was capable of. So you had to fight him in order to learn. And as you can see, you only get 30 attempts at that boss back then. So you would have to use your attempts wisely to learn his mechanics. Now, nowadays, go to Wowhead, look him up, make sure you choose the version of him that's in the Throne of Thunder, because you actually meet him again down the road in a future expansion. But if you want to know his abilities, they have now videos that Blizzard, after a while, Blizzard said, okay, he's been out long enough, we'll allow you guys to post videos, information about him. So you can go to YouTube, look up his fight, but my advice is go to Wowhead, look him up, his version of Throne of Thunder, see what his abilities are, and they'll have videos there for you too to watch to see how these fights play out.
Millennia I have waited in darkness, in silence, pierced only by the shrieks of the tormented, my dreams a waking nightmare. I see the naive hope in your eyes. You think you are my saviors? Wring that mocking pity from your hearts and focus it inwards, for you shall soon know my agony. This twisted world is beyond redemption, beyond the reach of deluded heroes. The only answer to corruption is destruction, and that begins now.
And if you're curious, his name Raiden, and known as Keeper of Storms, is basically a throwback to Mortal Kombat, if you ever played that, which would be obvious to a lot of gamers, obviously. Also, he is where the anima comes from, more or less, as you can see. Now, we ought to be able to knock him out.
When I am finished with you, I shall not rest until this world is cleansed. You still think victory possible? Ha! Fools!
See, there's orbs here now. You gotta be careful. You got Master Orb Carriers here, so... Ruin Bolts, which he's actually hurting me with. So,
wait. I am...
even on max, you can get destroyed by this guy if you don't knock him out ASAP.
You are powerful, more powerful than he was even. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps there is still hope. But there is a yawning chasm of darkness beneath you mortals. Vast, endless, and all-consuming. I do not believe that you can correct this doomed course. But you have earned the right to try. Farewell.
Too far away.